special guest, a man known as an NFL Pro Bowler, future Hall of Famer, owner of the Lights Out Extreme Fighting Championship, Shawne Merriman. What's going on, sir? How are you?
I'm good, man. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. Thank you for asking. And like I mentioned off the top, you have so much going on, but currently October 30th, you've got a card coming up for Lights Out. What can you sort of tell us about this card? Looks like we have a new TV deal, 3 title fights. Looks like it's very exciting.
You hit it right on the head. Those three title fights, man, gonna be key. And a lot of fans will recognize some of these names. This fight on this card has been around a little bit, but man, I'm waiting to see Albert Morales, man, and Henry. I think that one's just gonna be a smoke show, man. I think these guys are gonna get after it. And you know what? When it's three title defenses or any title defense on the line, the mood, kind of intensity kind of changes. Even with the fans, it is very tense in there, man. We sold out already, so we're really excited about that.
So what went into the decision for 3 title fights? We know some cards like the two, they like to one, so they can spread everything out, but you guys just decided to come out stacked right from the jump.
Yeah, for us, we got a lot of making up to do since the pandemic. So and I'm fortunate enough to work out with a lot of these guys too, or be in the same gym as them. And I'm kind of off on the side doing my light sparring and feeling good. But you see these guys training even throughout the whole pandemic up until now, and just waiting for an opportunity to get after it. And so that was the only way we can really stack it in one night, because it's going to be a showdown.
So you guys do have a new TV deal with Fubo. Can you tell us a little bit about that? Because we know regional MMA, the biggest issue is how do you watch this thing? People can't seem to find it. But here you guys have a TV deal. You have something worked out.
Yeah, that was something I was eyeing on for a while. And I was talking to Fubo for close to a year before we got that done. And obviously the pandemic threw everybody off and trying to catch back up again. But to have Fubo as a partner, man, it's been great, because me being from Prince George's County, Maryland, going to University of Maryland, I would always get asked when I go back home for football games to see my family, "Hey man, we can't watch it. We can't watch it out here. We can't watch it out here. How can we see it?" So now everyone can see it, both nationally and internationally. So Fubo's been great. We're actually right now top 3 most watched sport on Fubo show on Fubo. We had 209,000 people to watch the last fight, which is just next level. So we're continuing to grow with Fubo. They're aggressive in getting content and getting sports and getting eyeballs, man. And I love that. It was a perfect fit.
So what's the long-term vision for your promotion? Some guys are out here, they want to rival the UFC and stuff. Other people, they're content building up talent. What's kind of your long-term goal for your promotion?
For us, we're fine, man. Look, my former coach Marty Schottenheimer used to tell me, just perfect what you do. Don't worry about anybody else. Obviously, there's other leagues out there that's doing extremely well, and I've been a fan of watching even before I got heavy into the sport. We understand that, but we have great talent. Anybody that know anything about Lights Out Extreme Fighting, they know that we have probably the best up and coming talent there is in the sport.
So how do you guys go about signing guys? Obviously, we know you're a big name. A lot of people watched you during your prime and stuff like that. Do you show up personally to every fighter in order to give them a pitch? Like, how does that process kind of work for you guys? What can you tell us?
For us, George, who's my partner, he does a lot of the matchmaking. But it's cool because, like I said before, I trained at 6 of these gyms, right from Vegas, all the way down to Arizona. San Diego, LA. So I'm in the gym with these guys, so I see them all the time, and they'll come up to me and say, when you guys next show? But of course, while I'm sitting with a training, I got my eyeballs turned over and seeing who's in there, getting after it. And just I love being around. I think most importantly for me, I love being around the sport. I love being around these guys. They bring something out of me personally just to keep me going. And I just love their mentalities, man. So we love growing these guys and getting them out there, because ultimately, right, what they're doing in this sport, outside they love it, they love to compete, but these guys got families. They want to take care of their families.
So I'm going to put you on the spot here because we know it's a stacked card. You've got the 3 title fights. Is there one fight in particular that you're looking at and you're like, this one's a barn burner? Is there one in particular looking forward to?
I am, and that like I said before, that Albert Morales and Henry. I'm really, really looking at watching these guys. It's going to be first of all, we got, if you look up and down this card, even the ones that's not a title fight, this card is stacked with very, very well known and up and coming talent. But for me, it's the Albert Morales fight. He's our LXF champ right now, and I think that I don't know. You know, if you look at that fight, I don't. They're going to come out swinging, so I don't see that one going all the way. So I'll be front. I'll be front and center for that one. You know, that's when the love and the fan of me comes out of this sport. So I'll be up against the cage on that one.
So we know that when you do interviews about MMA, combat sports and stuff, you get asked some very specific stuff. We have to keep the tradition going. I can't be the guy who doesn't ask. But what about your fighting future? We've seen you tease us a little bit with bare knuckle. You've said potentially lights out. Well, what's the latest at this point? What can you sort of tell us? Are we ever going to see you in the cage?
You know, it's hard for me to say no, right? Because I'm a big opportunity guy, and if a right opportunity came about, then I would definitely consider it fighting in lights out extreme fighting. But like I said, when I have this love, this passion to be around the sport, you know, I'm in a MMA gym 3 or 4 days a week, and whether it's here in Vegas or California, Arizona. You know, I'm trying to get down there, and I want to train out there in Hawaii a little bit, a couple days with Kendall. In his group out there, Kendall Grove. So I love just down in Florida. They got some great gyms out there too. So yeah, man, I love being around the sport. So that's why I can't say no because my body feels great. I like to compete, but as of right now, the biggest thing I love to do is really promoting these guys and getting them out there.
So you spar with a lot of guys, you work with a lot of guys. Who was physically the strongest guy you've ever worked with? Like they put the mitts on you and you realize like, oh man, like I'm at this guy's mercy.
You know, who caught me off guard was Big Country Roy.
Oh yeah.
You know, he caught, because he obviously, he's a little older and stuff now, and he's in shape, he's out of shape, whatever. It's just always on and off. But his hands are still heavy as hell. It's one of these things you see, and it's like, oh, okay, cool, he can't move around with me, but he's really light for his size, light on his feet. He's still moving around. His conditioning isn't great. He's haven't been working consistently, but man, he hits you, you feel it. As he caught me one time, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I see those hands. You start to think, okay, 10 years ago, those hands probably really, really hurt.
When you work with these guys, how hard do you go? Like, do you have like we've seen the meme where the coaches tell you to go easy and you see two gorillas going at it. What has there been the case for you in sparring? Like, how hard do you go typically?
It all depends. It all depends on who you're working with, right? So you get out there and you got the guys that know how to work, and then you got some guys that don't know how to work, right? They come in there to get after it. I remember going in there. It was a random Friday, probably about 6 months ago, and I was in Black House, and I'm going there just to get some good work in. And you got a guy that go in the gym and get a couple punches off and feel good about themselves and try to go harder, and that's when you let them know real quick. And then, after that, then it goes back to it. But if you get in there with guys, for me personally, I love to learn. So whenever I'm going in there and I'm rolling with guys, whatever, Jason Manley, I was just rolling with him a few weeks ago over at Xtreme Tour. And so it's just really picking the brain because me, I'm just fascinated to learn more. And when I'm watching a fight, I pick up on things even more. Why guys do what they're doing.
So when you spar and you train with these guys, do you have to be careful sort of who you go with? I assume because you're a big name, a lot of people, you're obviously lights out. You've knocked out people on the football field. I imagine people want to make their name off of you
Oh,
and,
yeah,
try to go viral.
I've had that. Oh, I've had that for sure. And then it's either two things, right? So none of the guys who are veterans who've been around the sport, you don't have those guys. You have the guys that say, you know what, this Shawne Merriman, I'm gonna see what he's about today. And then they find out real quick that that's not something that they want to do. But to me, I like working with people that's smart. You got to work smart, man. It's such a brutal sport, and that's something I wish I learned a little bit more in my career, early football career. Is that work smarter. It's time to be a gladiator, time to be a warrior, but you want to get to the show 100%, right, and feel good about it.
So a lot of people want to know with you making that transition from the NFL to MMA, there's a lot of similarities, but how was that transition for you and going from, the highest level at one sport to moving on, doing something a lot different in MMA?
Humbling, humbling. For one, working in the sport and going against guys, hopping to some training camps for a couple of days, it makes you appreciate the sport on a whole different level. Now, on the business side of it, I've always had the mentality to grow the brand lights out. And since I have created a platform from what I've done on the football field, now being able to use it to promote these guys, promote the league, promote these up and coming fighters, getting them seen, because that's ultimately how guys are going to grow. You got some great fighters out here that just haven't had the opportunity to be seen yet. And so when you get them an opportunity to be seen, and then you watch them grow, and then we just had I think Ghost Pepper fought on our card a few last month, and he just had a fight I believe in UFC a
Yep.
few weeks ago, 1 or 2 weeks ago. So when you see guys that come and fight for your promotion, and then they get an opportunity to go and live out their dream, then you're happy for them.
I think something a lot of people want to know there's a lot of ifs and shoulds and stuff, but should you compete? If you compete, a lot of people want to know if you go out there and you get the knockout, can we see that iconic sack celebration come back? Is that something that you could pull out of the bag?
I think that would be automatic, to be honest. I mean, that it just go hand in hand, and I think people will they get a little hyped up over it.
All right, so I do have some NFL stuff for you. Full disclosure, I'm an MMA guy. I'm not an NFL guy, but that doesn't mean we don't have some NFL stuff for you here. I want to start with the best team in the league right now. Who are you sort of looking at? Who for you is the best team in the NFL right now?
You got to say the Cardinals. I mean, they're clicking on all cylinders. I would say probably the most scariest team that's coming up is the maybe the Cowboys, because they can just score. Man, that's pretty scary that somebody could just score like they're able to score. Um, and then I always got to say number three, my Chargers, man. I know they just lost against the Ravens. They're also people have just been sleeping on them the whole entire time. They lost against a really good Ravens team. Lamar's playing out of this world, but that defense for the Ravens is playing well. But watch, man, my Chargers, they come back against the Patriots after this bye week, so I can't wait for that.
So speaking of the Chargers, man, what have you thought of the Chargers so far? Like we see them, I believe currently they're 4-2. How are you sort of liking how the Chargers are doing so far?
They should be 5-1. I mean, to be honest, they should have beat the Cowboys. They got the game snatched away from them. I think two touchdowns called back, one for taunting and something else. So I'm like, come on, it's just ridiculous. But I love Brandon Staley, man. He from the first time that they brought him in that phone call, he called me. We talked on the phone for 20 minutes. I just knew they had the right guy. And he's a great leader, and it's showing. I mean, even some of the 4th and 7s, 4th and 9s, and that they went for this year has just been next level. So they're going to be good, especially with Justin Herbert, for a very long time.
And so I believe it's been about 10 years since you've been in the NFL. It's been a long time. How much has the league changed since you last competed?
It's been 7 or 8, yeah, but it's getting closer to 10. What's changed about it is the physicality of the sport. It was a little bit more brute when I played. I mean, I remember playing the Kansas City Chiefs, and they would just line up in power I formations, and they would run the ball 35 plus times and didn't care, right? And you had to stop Willie Roaf and Brian Waters and God. I mean, they were just stacked. Tony Richardson at fullback, and Priest Holmes and Larry Johnson at running back. You're like Tony Gonzalez at tight end. They would just run the ball. Right? It was a lot more physical. Now it's a lot more finesse. They're throwing the ball a lot more. In the game, obviously a lot more safer, which is a good thing. But the second part of it is, I don't know if you've seen I think last week, Kyler Murray came and got pushed, and he got a personal foul. It wasn't even a call, but it's just things like that I wish the NFL got rid of.
I feel like that's something we're seeing in a lot of sports, right? Like the NBA, the criticism is always like, guys wouldn't have survived in the 80s where guys were getting trucked. Like it seems it's something we're seeing across all American sports.
It is. It's I'm a tweener, right? So I'm not like the old school guy, like, oh yeah, back in my day we played with no helmets and two teeth, right? So I'm not one of those guys. But I am, in kind of the middle where you have a generation where social media and all that stuff has kind of got big, because it was getting big on my way out. But you have to be able to move with times. If you're going to sit back and be the old school guy and say, oh yeah, well things were like this in my day, well it's not your day anymore. So scoot over and kind of move along with what's hot right now, what's the times.
All right, so before we wrap things up, I have some fantasy MMA NFL stuff for you.
Okay.
I'm sure you've been asked this before, but for you as a promoter, who in the NFL do you look at and you just think, man, I wish they would compete in MMA? Obviously, compete for your promotion, but who are some of those guys you look at and you're like, man, they would be so good in face punching?
I'll look at Khalil Mack, and he's one of my favorite players to watch. But Khalil Mack, I think, would be a hell of an MMA fighter. He has like a Francis build to him. Where big tree trunk legs and broad shoulders. Obviously he's aggressive and physical and relentless. I think that if he decided to pick up MMA, he would be legit right away. I don't think it would take him long to be really good at it. Aaron Donald, I think if he came in and decided he wanted to drop 20 or 25 pounds, and which he could, when you get off the football field, a lot of people drop weight and fight at 265 ish, be a heavyweight, got that low center of gravity. He can get anybody on the ground, I'm sure, and just athletic. Guys like that, man. I think that Drew Tranquil from the Chargers, I think that he can be a hell of an MMA fighter. So I think the linebackers make the best, and probably safeties and corners after that.
So what can be done to bring more of these guys to MMA? Is because the big thing is always people say like all the big athletes, all the guys that would do really well in heavyweight, they're going to football, they're going to basketball and all that stuff. What can be done to get these guys coming to MMA? Is it purely about money or what can be done exactly, you
Yeah,
think?
I think the big part of it is money, because one time, one thing, if you make a lot of money playing in the NFL, professional sports in general, while you're not going to go take that risk in going to another sport unless the risk is great enough financially, but also too, you got a guy like I retired after 8 years. I was 28 years old. If I decided to go and get right into MMA series right after, I would have still a long career after to go and be successful. So what it'll take is you'll have some guys that play 4, 5, 6 years and young, and want to still compete. And that's what Lights Out Extreme Fighting. That's what we're in the process of doing, is getting these former athletes from NHL, NFL, NBA, former rugby guys to come and transition. And I've done it successfully, so I can walk them right through it.
Last fantasy thing for you. If you had to pick one quarterback to compete in MMA, who would be your pick?
Whew. One quarterback. Well, you talk about size wise, you start looking at the Cam Newtons and stuff in the world. I think Cam will come in and just, oh my God, he would be successful right away, just size wise. Um, I'm trying to think of some feisty, some nasty guys out there.
You
I
know,
can't.
you don't like Kyler Murray surviving a big push like that competing in MMA?
No, no. Well, I mean, what the what flyweight? Like,
I mean, if it works.
yeah, yeah. I don't know if any nasty guys out there. You got to have some kind of grit, man, to be in the sport.
All right, last thing for you, since you do have a big promotion coming up, man, let us know where can we watch the promotion, anything we need to catch beforehand, and if you have anything you need to shout out, now's the time.
Absolutely. October 30th at the Burbank Marriott Event Center. And if you can't get there, live on Football Sports, I believe it starts at 5 or 5:30 Pacific. So you can watch us live on Football Sports. But these, I mean, the title fights are going to be great. Watch this undercard. Watch it from early. I mean, this undercard is also stacked.
All right, there we go. We look forward to it. Thanks so much for the time, man. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
man.
it.
Appreciate you.